June 1st marked the start of Pride Month, a month that celebrates the LGBTQ community with parades, picnics, parties, workshops, concerts, and more. Here in Des Plaines, the local high school Maine West hosted a Pride event sponsored by both the Genders and Sexuality Alliance Club and the nonprofit group Speak Des Plaines. Jessie Mogg, a community organizer with Speak Des Plaines, worked with members of the group to bring the idea they made to the Maine West community.
So there's been a lot of student input, and that was why we wanted to go to the high school. We really feel it's important to involve young voices, listen to young voices, and move with youth and not be making all of the decisions. Like we can help kind of organize it, but we've really been trying to hear and make into a reality what the students want.
Mogg, along with intern Monish Soni, a junior at Maine West, work with the GSA Club to expand on organizing the event.
The school has done a little bit. They have they have Pride Month celebrations now that we have it. There's teachers are all supportive. The community is all good. So I think things are better, but I think it can always get better.
The event was the first ever Pride event held at Maine West for the community, receiving an outpour of support from various organizations and support for the next Pride event, as Allison Adams, the sponsor of GSA and school counselor, mentions.
We actually got a grant from the It Gets Better project, which I am a huge fan of. It Gets Better, their organization. I utilize their book and videos with my support group. So it was fantastic. We applied for this and they actually asked me to up our budget, and we have a grant for $10,000 for the event for next year. So we'll start planning that much sooner and have a lot more flexibility in making it a phenomenal event. So
an event that many had enjoyed in the small community, but as Sony mentions, there is still more that should be done. Pride Month had originated from what started as a riot in 1969 known as the Stonewall Uprising. In the 1960s in New York City, same-sex relations were illegal. So as a result, members of the LGBTQ community went to bars and clubs to find a safe haven. But in 1969, that all changed when law enforcement raided Stonewall Inn. A riot was started amongst the bar patrons and neighborhood residents as police hauled out the employees and patrons. The aftermath of this led to 6 days of protest against law enforcement outside of the bar. Thus, years later, creating what we know now as Pride Month. But not all have come to see it as a celebratory month. In March of this past year, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a legislation that prohibits teachers from leading classroom lessons on gender identity or sexual orientation for students in kindergarten through 3rd grade.
We will continue to recognize that in the state of Florida, parents have a fundamental role in the education, healthcare, and well-being of their children. We will not move from that. I don't care what corporate media outlets say. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what big corporations say. Here I stand. I'm not backing down.
Many in the LGBTQ community have called out DeSantis for his wrongdoing and naming his legislation as Don't Say Gay.
If done properly, it's about educating young people. And I think education is key, whether we're talking about substance use, LGBTQ, race. Like, we need to be informing our young people about the world. So I think it can be done in an educational manner and respectful of people and respectful that people have different views. But I do think we'll do a disservice if we don't educate young people.
Here in Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker had signed a legislation in 2019 requiring schools from kindergarten to the 12th grade to include a curriculum on LGBTQ history. Victor Salvo, co-founder and executive director of the Legacy Project, works with the organization to provide resources for anyone to access.
We tell these stories from a variety of perspectives that are really made it possible for kids to identify with people who are like themselves, at least in terms of that particular aspect of their character. But we don't talk about sex. We don't really even talk that much about identity. There are certain subjects there are other education pathways that are better suited to it, but we don't back away from it. We simply acknowledge it, and we provide resources if teachers want to expand.
Illinois is one of the 6 states to provide curriculums in the classroom based on LGBTQ history and background. Although it being a step forward for the community, there are students like junior Alex Dussault O'Connor who wants to continue to make changes before they graduate.
But I think it's just school culture. Like, I'm always terrified in the locker rooms, and I definitely, well, not terrified, but I'm definitely nervous. And I'm nervous when I'm not around the people I know and usually have class with.
At Maine West, there have been a few gender-neutral bathrooms for students, but a rule in the handbook puts in definition as bathrooms of the opposite gender may be included as off-limits.
Yeah, they have to use, like, the bathroom of their assigned gender at birth. I was told that when I came here, and I was like, and I never followed it.
While schools like Maine West have been taking steps to improve on helping the youth of LGBTQ, there are still improvements that can be made, from working within the community and organizations like the Legacy Project. Reporting for Good Day DePaul, I'm Juliana Pelaez.